Apple iPhones are too expensive. Too expensive, and there's something that's going wrong in the South African and African market. Something that doesn't happen in many parts of Europe or North America. So let's get into it. For framing, keep in mind that the Samsung S24 Ultra 256 gigabytes is going for 22,000 rands 631 on Takealot right now today. This is the top range slab phone which was released by Samsung this year, and it's a good framing device to pay attention to the issues that are happening specifically with iPhone. So what are the prices? They've come in now. We can look at everything and I'm going to show them to you on screen. iPhone 16 Pro, right? It starts at 128 gigabytes. It's going for 26,499. The 256 gigabytes is going for 28,999. The 512 is going for 34,499. The 1 terabyte is going basically for 40,000 rand, 39,999. You buy the plastic, that's 40,000 already. So that's the iPhone 16 Pro. The iPhone 16 is going for, let me do iPhone 16 Pro Max. The iPhone 16 Pro Max starts at 256 gigabytes. It's going for 31,799. The iPhone Pro Max 512 gigabytes is going for 36,799. The 1 terabyte is going for 42,499. Those are hectic prices. Let's go now to the iPhone 16. iPhone 16, 256 gigabytes, 20,999. 512 gigabytes, 23,499. 1 terabyte, 28,999. And you can pause if you want to see these prices in a little bit more detail. The iPhone 16 Plus, it's going for, at 256 gigabytes, 23,499. 512 gigabytes, it's going for 26,499. 1 terabyte, it's going for 31,799. Those prices are high. They're high. Now let's do a price comparison with America. I'll pick one of the phones. I can't do all of them. It's just going to take too much time. But one of the phones will illustrate the issue that I'm talking about. iPhone 16 Pro Max. Let's compare that one. The South African price, American price. The 16 Pro Max in South Africa, 256, 31,799. Guess how much it's going for in America? It's going for 20,983. Come on, that's crazy. 11,000 rands difference. Look at the 512. The 512 is going for 36,799 in South Africa. It's going for 24,000 rands 482 in America. 12,000 rands. That's a big difference. Big difference. Look at the 1 terabyte. 42,499 in South Africa. 27,000 rands 982 in America. That is a huge difference as well. That's basically a difference of 15,000 rands for the top end iPhone Pro Max. 15,000 rands difference. Right. So let's do a price comparison, because remember, we have another device we can use as a benchmark. Doing a price comparison with the US prices, it's clear that there's a discrepancy in pricing between South Africa and America. This discrepancy, however, does not exist in the USA between the iPhone and the Samsung devices. They are within the same range. So comparing iPhone and Samsung in America, they're in the same range. They are premium phones in the same price range. This discrepancy also does not exist between Samsung South African devices and Samsung America devices. They are within the same price range. Let me show you. The Samsung S24 Ultra, 256 gigabytes, right, is going for 23,801 in South Africa. And it's going for, actually, it's a bit lower now, the first price. This is last week's pricing that I checked. 23,801 in South Africa. Also going for 23,286 in America. The difference is literally, what is that difference? Let me just do that math. 500 rands. Compare the American discrepancies. Those are huge. Those are huge. And in fact, that price has gone down because the S24 Ultra is now going for 22,631. So it is now officially cheaper in South Africa than it is in America. Although you can get it on a discount in America at different times, and on what is this called? What's this place called? Best Buy. You can get it for about 19,256 rands if you buy it from Best Buy. The Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, sorry, the Samsung S24 Ultra 256. So, but can you see that there's a big discrepancy here? The Samsung and Apple comparison helps us to eliminate another variable, which is taxation in South Africa. These phones are in the same category. They are premium smartphones, and they are taxed exactly the same way. The same VAT, the same excise tax, the same duties apply across the devices. In keeping Samsung as a control, we can observe pricing anomalies that help us to understand if the pricing is unfair or fair of the Apple devices, right? And it seems as if it's unfair. Before I go on, some of you may be wondering, why does any of this matter? We're talking about Apple devices, premium devices. Why does it matter? Number one, unfair pricing is in and of itself something that we must call out. Whether it is for something like a car or a fridge or a phone, if the pricing is unfair, that act in and of itself is something that is worth calling out, right? Doesn't matter whether it affects the middle class, the rich, whatever. An unfair price does not become fair because it's affecting a group that you may not be part of, right? But even people who are from, lower middle class, or maybe not even middle class, buy these devices too, buy cars, buy fridges, etc., because they need them for life, right? So that's number one. Number two, some of these devices are within the budget range, but are being priced out and are therefore becoming inaccessible for more people. Fundamentally, people should have nice things. Apple doesn't just sell, what is this thing called? iPhone Pro Max 1 terabyte. They also sell some devices which are in the SE category, which is supposed to be for everyday people. And these devices are accessible for everyday people in countries like India. They can buy them. They can access the Apple ecosystem. People should have nice things. But those things, if they're overpriced in South Africa, become inaccessible for the very people that the company intended them for. And that's something that's also worth calling out. Number three, there are systemic lessons we can learn from one case study to improve our understanding of the market and the economy. And as a result, even a case study which looks at premium devices, such as the ones that are made by Apple, is worth looking at. Number four, we must actually burst this conception that certain things are status symbols, right? Technology is meant to be accessible, and in many countries it is. We must not value status to the point where we're happy to overpay so that we retain our status. In many countries, these devices are owned by most of the population, not just some of the population, so that they can look nice in the nightclubs and impress, baddies. That's not what this is about. Let's accept that we don't have to chase status to this extent. Come on. Number five, good price information is powerful. Good price information is powerful. Good price information is powerful. And it's one of the ways in which companies are held accountable and one of the ways in which prices are negotiated. We must make sure, as any market, that we have good price information. So this video is about serving the customer with insights into that issue because it helps you. It's one of the issues. So what's the difference between why is the difference between the Samsung and the Apple sales price in South Africa and other parts of Africa so marked? Here's the difference. The Samsung market has fair competition, and the Apple market has market failure. The whole basis of capitalism is the principle of the invisible hand. Under the principle of the invisible hand, rational actors, acting in their own interest, often optimize the market much better than government action or collective intervention, which is to say, when there's competition in the market acts in ways that optimize the well-being of all of the actors within that market. With competition, the premise is competition. So in economics, we study something that is known as perfect competition. But perfect competition is useful to just understand the ideal and then to compare with that ideal to see how far you are from the ideal. There's no real perfect competition in the real world, but there's often competition. Perfect competition is an idealized market structure characterized by a high degree of competition amongst numerous firms, where no single entity can influence market prices. It's a theoretical model that serves as a benchmark for understanding how supply and demand interact in a market economy. Four main features. You have many buyers, many sellers. You have homogeneous products or similar enough products. Then you have no or low barriers to entry. And finally, you have good price information. All of these are essential features of the perfect competition, or even, if you will, good competition. Market failure. What's that? Market failure refers to a situation in which the allocation of goods and services by a free market is not efficient, leading to a net loss of economic value. Key features of market failure. Number one, inefficient resource allocation. In a perfectly functioning market, supply and demand balance each other, ensuring that resources are allocated efficiently. However, market failures disrupt this equilibrium, resulting in either overproduction or underproduction of goods and services. Number two, Pareto inefficiency. Market failures often lead to situations where no one can be made better off without making someone else worse off, and this is known as a Pareto inefficiency. This means that the overall welfare of society is not maximized. The common causes of market failure are the following. Number one, externalities. Externalities occur when the actions of individuals or firms have effects on third parties not involved in the transaction. Negative externalities such as pollution impose costs on others, while positive externalities like education provide benefits that are not reflected in the market prices. So negative externalities are one of the causes of market failure. Two, public goods. Public goods are characterized by non-excludability, non-rivalry, meaning that they're available to all without diminishing availability for others. For example, national defense. When the private sector enters into the provision of public goods, the private sector often lacks the incentive to produce these goods adequately for everyone, leading to under provision. This is why it's dangerous to have certain public goods and utilities privately owned, because they overcharge and they don't deliver to everyone. So that under delivery is a form of market failure. Imperfect information is a cause of market failure. Imperfect information. When buyers or sellers lack complete information about a product or service, it can lead to suboptimal decisions. For examples, customers may overpay, may overpay for products if they are unaware of their true value. Let me read that again for you. When buyers or sellers lack complete information about a product or service, it can lead to suboptimal decisions. For example, consumers may overpay for products if they are unaware of their true value. There it is. You need to be aware of that. Number four, cause of market failure, market power. When a single firm, monopoly, or small group of firms, oligopoly, can control prices and output levels, it can lead to inefficiencies and higher prices than would occur in competitive markets. When a single firm, monopoly, or a group of firms, oligopoly, can control prices and output levels, it can lead to inefficiencies and higher prices than would occur in competitive markets. The fifth cause is factor immobility. This refers to the inability of factors of production like labor and capital to move freely between different uses or locations, which can result in underemployment or underutilization of resources. What are the implications of market failures? Market failures justify government intervention to correct inefficiencies and improve social welfare. This is done through various means, such as regulations, taxes, subsidies, or the provision of public goods. However, you need to be aware government interventions can also lead to government failure, where policies do not achieve their intended outcomes due to inefficiencies or mismanagement or corruption. Where's what when the ANC? Government failure. So this is sometimes the challenge in South Africa, is that we overglorify the private sector as if they are not capable of failure, abuse, and corruption. Overcharging is corruption. It's corruption. It is. It's just like promising to, dig a borehole and then you don't dig it as a politician for votes. Both of you are doing something unethical. It may be legal, but it's corrupt, because corruption is not just about the law, it's about the ethics of a thing. So those are the implications of the the market failure. Why is the iPhone market overpriced and part of market failure? It's because the iPhone market has been a monopoly for a very long time and now is a duopoly, right? So monopoly, as you know, a monopoly exists when a single firm dominates the entire market for a product or service with no close substitutes available. This firm has significant control over pricing and supply. A duopoly is a specific type of oligopoly where only two firms dominate the market. These firms have considerable control over pricing and supply, but must consider each other's actions closely. Oligopoly. An oligopoly consists of a few large firms that dominate a market. These firms sell similar but differentiated products and have significant market power. The Apple market has been a monopoly for a long time and has become a duopoly only this year, but that has still not had an impact on pricing. The two suppliers of iPhones in South Africa are basically not competing on price. This is why the price is as high as it's ever been. Still the same high price. That price is higher than a Nyaupe boy on Nyaupe. It's higher than my 11 on Nyaupe. I'm telling you now, right? So there is a risk with duopoly, right? There's no need. With duopoly, that's exactly the problem that exists. There's no need to compete on price. There's a tendency to collusion. So how did we get into this duopoly situation? Apple appoints what are known as independent marketing companies, IMCs, in marginal territory where revenue doesn't warrant a full subsidiary office, right? IMCs are super distributors. They are responsible for all aspects of Apple's business, and they function as though they are Apple. IMCs were an Apple Europe idea to run businesses in places like Eastern Europe post the collapse of the USSR, communism, and the Berlin Wall. The core group was operating as a monopoly up until this year on the distribution of Apple devices in South Africa, Angola, Botswana, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, Nigeria, South Africa, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. What? One company controlling all of South Africa, Angola, Botswana, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, Nigeria, South Africa, Zambia, and Zimbabwe? What? So that control has been slightly tweaked. They're now a duopoly in South Africa with another company known as Aspis. Aspis is this company that also now got distribution rights for Apple devices in South Africa. It hasn't changed the price at all. So let me tell you about this Aspis business. Aspis Enterprises PLC is a multinational corporate group that is engaged in the distribution of IT products, mobile devices, computer software, and hardware in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, and in other emerging markets. It's headquartered in Limassol in Cyprus. So this Aspis distributes a wide range of products, right? It's the official distributor of Seagate, Logitech, and Apple in Africa. It's one of them, right? For Apple. Let me tell you the countries where it's operating. It is now operating in South Africa, Egypt, Algeria, Morocco. For most of the time, it was just actually operating in Egypt, Algeria, Morocco. But now they also were like, give us a share of the South Africa. We don't want to just be North Africa. We also want to taste the money in South Africa. And they got their license. So they are a business to business vendor and they do not sell to the public. So you can see two companies, two, selling all the Apple devices in the whole of Africa. That's crazy. That these companies have essentially become gatekeepers for Apple products, and they are charging massive rents for the products to be accessible in Africa. Africans are overpaying for products which use African resources to be assembled and which are more affordable in the rest of the world. There's only a few countries where they're more expensive, like Turkey, for example. They charge crazy taxes in Turkey for iPhones. But most of the African countries are overpaying for these devices. Policymakers need to do something. They must bring these companies to parliament and ask them tough questions about their exploitative pricing practices, right? In South Africa, they can do that. Customers must also find creative ways to push back against this pricing approach by these companies. For instance, if you have relatives overseas, wait for them to visit so that they can bring you cheaper devices. They have to be other ways to get these devices than just waiting for the core group or ASPIS to actually overcharge you for them and deliver them whenever they feel like. And it's a mess. And by the way, American lawmakers, European lawmakers, they don't play. They'll bring TikTok to Congress. They'll bring Facebook to Congress. They'll ask them tough questions about their behavior in their countries. African lawmakers, the whole time. What is up with these people? Are they lazy? What's going on? You all don't see these inefficiencies? You all don't understand what's happening? Don't you also get this anyway, I wanna point something out. This is very important. Yesterday, I spoke about the supermarket space. I spoke about how South Africa's total grocery retail market had an estimated value of 900 billion in 2021. Is probably approaching 1 trillion rands right now. 60% of that market is considered formal, 40% informal. There are only 4 large retailers: Pick n Pay, Shoprite, Spar, Woolworths, and they account for 50% of the sales in the whole grocery retail market. That is a market inefficiency right there, a market failure. This is part of the reason why food is overpriced, is because there's an oligopoly within the grocery retail market. When you have an oligopoly and a duopoly and a monopoly everywhere in a market, this hurts consumers and it prevents them from building wealth. It prevents them from surviving. The cost of living crisis that we talk about is partly because of the economic design, monopoly, duopoly, oligopoly. This prevents competition on pricing. It even prevents real innovation. There's no real benefit to the customer long term from these entities existing the way that they exist. Part of the reason why the economy is not growing is because of these extractive entities. South Africa is an extractive economy where few people or few companies own vast parts of the economy and extract wealth from the majority for their elite group. It's not good capitalism. It's not exactly the type of capitalism which Adam Smith would have valued, the guy who formulated that concept of the invisible hand in 1776. This is not good. It's not healthy. A lot of times when we talk about the economy, people just say, no, you're socialist, you're communist, whatever. Even as a capitalist, every capitalist should prioritize competition. That's fair. Imagine you at a 100-meter race when Noah Lyles is allowed to put hurdles on everyone's track and is allowed to run with a gun where he can shoot everyone who's contesting a gun. If he wins, is that fair? Is he really the winner? Is that really sprinting? No. Everyone has to run a fair race under fair conditions so that we can actually say you are the champion. We all get this. This is not healthy. I hope you realize 4 big banks, 4 supermarket chains, 4 cell phone companies, 2 iPhone distributors. This issue is much bigger than just iPhone. It's systemic. And this story is just to illustrate why Africans keep getting screwed over in the economy? It's because these economies have been left alone by policymakers to become monopoly, oligopoly, duopoly type of extractive economies, and that's never healthy. By the way, once you have these economies running like this, those same people will bribe those same politicians to keep the system going. That's why the laws never change. And then in other countries, they call it lobbying and they make it legal. Sekake, I'll tell you that right now. Till the next one.